the legacy of the last Labour government on these questions was one of failure. Their solution to a lack of jobs was an unsustainable expansion of the public sector that did nothing to deliver economic opportunity or resilience. They squandered the opportunities of a time of global stability and affluence on gimmickry, ducking the hard challenges of public sector reform. Labour ignored the Midlands and the North when they were in power. For every 10 private sector jobs created in London and the South between 1998 and 2008, only one was created in the Midlands and the North. And they patronised and ignored the voices of Britain's left-behind communities in a way that reached its logical nadir in their arrogant response to the people's decision to leave the European Union, that was embodied by no one more than Keir Starmer. Labour is no longer trusted by the places that need levelling up the most. Instead, we've been given the chance to deliver for them. And so far, our Conservative government and Conservative local leaders across the UK have made excellent strides in this direction. The work done by my predecessors to get the levelling up mission off the ground means we're already seeing tangible change from Stoke to Teesside, and I'm absolutely determined we should continue in this fashion. But we must also go further, be bolder, and be more ambitious. We must continue to help rejuvenate our local areas, support our high streets, and reinstil a sense of community. But we must also take more fundamental action to unleash our local economies, drive growth, and boost opportunity too. In delivering this agenda, I'm fortunate to have the support of a truly brilliant ministerial team. Paul Scully as Local Government Minister and Minister for London. Andrew Stevenson taking the lead on vital issues like homelessness and supporting Ukrainian refugees. Lee Rowley as Housing Minister, working tirelessly to unlock the homes we need. Jaya Davison, my near neighbour in the North East, as Levelling Up Minister. Baroness Jane Scott, our champion in the House of Lords, as well as our whips Nigel Huddleston and Olivia Bloomfield, and our excellent BPSs Jason McCartney and Simon John. I could not be more glad to have their support and advice, and I could not be more grateful to our Prime Minister for making it so clear how much of a personal priority this work is for her. Now, recent weeks should have quelled any doubts about this government's appetite for bold action. Last month's fiscal statement was defined by its ambition and scope, and at DLUC, we're really hitting the ground running. I'm proud that our work on investment zones holds its place on so many exciting announcements that fire the starting gun on our mission to grow our economy. Investment zones represent an amazing opportunity for every corner of our country and illustrate perfectly how this government intends to go further on levelling up. They're a truly exciting and meaningful offer to help accelerate homes, development and enterprise across the UK. They'll bring jobs and opportunity to the areas that need them most, boosting growth on local people's terms. They will roll back the bureaucracy that shackles our local economies to bring homes and jobs to families across the UK. We remain committed to the same outcomes we've always been clear on the environment and beyond, but are determined to speed up the processes to get growth going. Investment zones are ultimately defined by three things. The first is consent. We're absolutely clear that these zones must be led by the people who know best what their area needs and what it does not. There will be no top-down imposition of these arrangements on anywhere that does not want them. Don't get me wrong, I'm passionate about the benefits that these zones can bring, and I will advocate for them wherever I can. But ultimately, if local people decide an investment zone isn't for them, then that will be the final word. The second principle is a targeted and precise action. Investment zones will target specific and effective sites that would benefit from accelerated development and a tax structure that incentivises investment. This is a practical proposal for change. Which brings me to the third principle of pragmatic acceleration. This is an outcomes-focused policy that seeks to accelerate investment, development and growth. That means finding where things can be sped up and doing it, not revisiting already shovel-ready projects and slowing them down. I'm delighted we've already got the portal open for local areas to submit their applications to get an investment zone in their area. And let me give you a sneak preview conference. The reception from MPs, councils and mayors alike has been fantastic. Investment zones are the first major step that we've taken in this new look government to deliver on our promise to level up in a Conservative way. This conservatism will guide our agenda across the department's portfolio, which is why I'm also steadfastly committed to increasing home ownership. Getting more people on the housing ladder to give people security, a stake in society, and somewhere to call their own is a fundamentally Conservative goal. Investment zones will help deliver many of the homes that we need, but we must go further. I want to reassure those hoping to get on the housing ladder that you remain at the heart of our agenda for government. In the coming weeks, I'll be fleshing out how we intend to get more homes on the market and improve access to those homes. This will build on the work of both this government's recent measures to lift the worst of the stamp duty burden and of previous Conservative administrations, which is paying dividends in the form of record numbers of homes being built today. I want, like the Prime Minister, to build more houses and to do so in the right way. Accelerating development of brownfield sites is of the utmost importance, as is building beautifully. We want to grow organic communities, not impose cardboard boxes across our shires. And as with investment zones, local consent will sit at the heart of our plans. Because it is not the case that either home ownership, investment zones, or the wider challenge of levelling up can be addressed from Whitehall. We know as Conservatives that decisions are best taken as close as possible to the people that they affect. I'm proud and passionate about what devolution has brought to many of our regions and want to build on those successes. The people of Birmingham don't need me to tell them that. Andy Street has truly led the way here in the West Midlands. We meet in a city and a region transformed by his leadership. His champion of this region is a fine example of the good that mayors can do. I want to create many more mayors in areas like the East Midlands, where Ben Bradley is leading the way, but also in the south of our country, where even if the title may differ, the principle of strong, directly elected leadership is central to enabling the highest level of devolved government. I also want to strengthen and deepen the powers of our existing mayors so that they can crack on with the work of delivery. People like Tees Valley's Ben Houchin. I want to return for a moment for what's been happening on Teesside. I talked earlier about the challenges that my home area faces, but there are also huge opportunities which Ben is helping to unlock. In so doing, he's shown just why elected mayors can make such an extraordinary difference. Whether it be in saving Teesside Airport from closure, securing thousands of new jobs in clean energy on sites like Teesworks, right next to our new Freeport, Ben champions our area, both to central government and to investors at home and abroad, delivering opportunities that until recently few would have dreamed of. He's shown what Conservatives can do locally when we are empowered to. And as we deliver, so we unlock pride and purpose. Teesside is becoming somewhere that successful people are moving to, rather than moving from, and somewhere where a child studying today at a school like St Pius's Primary can realise a bright future. So there is so much we can enable through devolution, and this is why I care so much about it. The flip side to devolving and empowering local government is that strengthening accountability is vital. I intend to support the local authority sector and to be an advocate for it, but I will also crack down on mismanagement wherever I find it, such as in Thurrock, Nottingham or Croydon. I believe in local government because I believe it delivers for our people, the taxpayers. Where it does not, there must be effective scrutiny, turnaround programmes and consequences, and I will say more about this in the weeks ahead. Conference, there's so much else that I'm charged with delivering and on which I will expand over the months ahead. When it comes to building safety, I want to finish what my predecessors started, to fix our system for the long term, to protect leaseholders and ensure industry fixes the problems it created. I will push on with pragmatic, common-sense reform that protects leaseholders, facilitates an operable insurance industry, and ensures we never have to face a tragedy like Grenfell again. The legacy of Grenfell must be better standards and safer homes for everyone. That is why I am resolved to fix the cladding issue as soon as possible. As we enter into autumn and winter, the government also remains focused on protecting the most vulnerable from rising energy costs and the wider cost of living in a world turned upside down by Putin's aggression. Our measures to protect households during the pandemic worked, and to help those facing cost of living pressures now, we're delivering thousands of pounds worth of support to households and businesses, as well as our new energy price guarantee. We will remain committed as a department, and I as Secretary of State, to doing all that we can to limit homelessness and rough sleeping. I'll be working closely with my new colleague Andrew Stevenson on this. Together, we will work to ensure that we build upon the fantastic support and dedication that this government has already given to tackle the scourge of homelessness. I know I will have the support of you all in delivering on this work, and that's why I want to end this speech by saying thank you. I know the importance of the grassroots of our party to what we're trying to achieve. You, the boots on the ground, the activists and the volunteers, the canvassers, the candidates and the councillors, are the backbone of our great party. It is because of your delivery, of leaflets through doors, of local services from our Conservative councils, and of our message of optimism and patriotism to every corner of the country, that we have the platform and the ability to deliver for the country in government. And as the Secretary of State responsible for levelling up, for local government and for communities, I want to ensure I'm always working with you and for you to deliver on the extraordinary opportunities that lie ahead.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Chancellor of the Exchequer.
Thank you, conference. What a day. It has been tough, but we need to focus on the job in hand. We need to move forward. No more distractions. We have a plan, and we need to get on and deliver it. That's what the public expect. That's what the public expect from the government. But first, conference, welcome back to Birmingham. This is a remarkable city. It has a history of great brilliance. Joseph Chamberlain in the 19th century was an extraordinary civic leader who led Birmingham and the world through the Industrial Revolution. And today, Andy Street is following in that great tradition. Grafts and grit turned this small town first into a thriving industrial market, then into one of the centres of the Industrial Revolution, which powered and grew not just the British economy, but provided the new technologies that changed the world forever. The Industrial Revolution was one of the most monumental transformations in human history, and it began here, with determination and application. Those Britons built a thriving economy. They inspire me today. They remind us that in Britain, with the British people, absolutely anything is possible. Our plan today focuses on the same bold sentiment, the same inspiration, to deal with the challenges of today by giving people the tools they need to thrive tomorrow, to get Britain moving. We have great ideas. We have the same inspirational people, and I know we have the same determination. Our growth plan, set out 10 days ago, will ensure we focus relentlessly on economic growth, because we must face up to the fact that for too long, our economy has not grown enough. The path ahead of us was one of slow, managed decline. But I refuse to accept that it is somehow Britain's destiny to fall back into middle league status, or that the tax burden reaching a 70-year high is somehow inevitable. It isn't, and it shouldn't be. We needed needed a new approach focused on raising economic growth, because that is the only real way to deliver opportunities, to deliver higher wages, to deliver more jobs, and crucially, to deliver that revenue to fund our precious public services. And it is the best and only way of achieving long-term fiscal sustainability. Because it is only by raising economic growth that we will spread opportunity and prosperity to every corner of our country. With economic growth, everybody benefits, and I mean everybody. While we all believe in growth, we as Conservatives also believe that it is an important principle that people should keep more of the money they earn. I don't need to tell you that. I don't need to tell you that. I don't need to tell you that. That isn't radical, that isn't irresponsible, it is a deeply held belief that we all share as Conservatives. We were faced with a 70-year high tax burden. We were confronted with low growth, and the path we were on was clearly unsustainable. So that's why we are cutting taxes for working people. That's why we will reverse the national insurance hike on the 6th of November. And that's why we will bring forward the 1p cut to the basic rate of income tax by 1 year. That's why we will take 200,000 people out of paying stamp duty altogether. Taken together, this is what our support will do for all our people. Thanks to our energy intervention, a typical person in a semi-detached property will save £1,150 on their energy bills this winter, on top of the £400 discount. And if they are earning an average salary, they will benefit from an additional tax cut of around £400. That is almost a £2,000 saving this year alone. But I can be frank, I know the plan put forward only 10 days ago has caused a little turbulence. I get it. We are listening and have listened. And now I want to focus on delivering the major parts of our growth package. Because with energy bills skyrocketing, a painful COVID aftermath, war on our continent, a 70-year high tax burden, slowing global growth rates, and glacially slow infrastructure delivery, we couldn't simply do nothing. We can't sit idly by. What Britain needs more than ever is economic growth, and a government wholly committed to economic growth. That is why we will forge a new economic deal for Britain, backed by an ironclad commitment to fiscal discipline. More businesses. More businesses, more jobs, higher pay, more money for public services. Because we cannot have a strong NHS without a strong economy. We can't have good schools without a strong economy. We cannot fund our armed forces without a strong economy. So growing our economy should be our central and guiding mission. With this plan, we are aiming for 2.5% annual trend growth. We've done it before, and we can do it again. And even in the face of extreme volatility in global markets, with major currencies wrestling an incredibly strong US dollar, and longer-term trends from demographic change to climate change, we will show that our plan is sound, that it is credible, and that it will increase growth. That is our pledge to the people of this country. However, conference, there is an immediate challenge facing not just our country, not just our people, but the whole of Europe. The high cost of energy driven by Putin's barbaric invasion of Ukraine. Cast your mind back just 4 weeks ago. We had dire warnings of extreme energy prices to come. Corner shops to heavy industry predicted unprecedented disruption. Business groups feared mass unemployment. Entire livelihoods were on the line. Make no mistake, this was a very real prospect for our country. So within 48 hours of taking office, we announced one of the most significant interventions ever conceived by the British state. Annual energy bills of up to £6,500 from next year were staring us in the face. Everybody was worried. Now we are holding down the price at an average of £2,500. Not just this winter, like the Labour Party promised, but next winter too. 2 years of significant taxpayer support to protect our people. Because this government will always be on the side of those who need help the most. For our businesses too, Conference, help is on its way. A local pub could save £3,100 a month, cutting their bills by 40%. And we've also frozen alcohol duty. Make no mistake, this is a monumental support package to protect millions of families and businesses from devastating price hikes unleashed by Vladimir Putin. There is no doubt that this is a substantial intervention. But we had no choice. Doing something was simply not an option. We couldn't just cross our fingers and hope for the best. The price of inaction would have been far greater than the cost of the scheme. We will deal with the short-term shocks caused by Putin, but we must also go for growth to ensure we are much more self-sufficient. We will tackle the mistakes of the past to ensure the UK can never again be blackmailed by people such as Putin and his like. When COVID hit our shores, we were right to intervene to protect lives and livelihoods. And I can say in all sincerity that we went into that crisis in a much better position because of the action we have taken over the last decade. Because of successive Conservative governments, the UK now has the second lowest debt to GDP ratio in the G7. And throughout this urgent endeavour of ours to protect Britain from high energy costs, and in response to the urgent need to grow our economy, we have taken the appropriate action. Our entire approach will be underpinned by a strong institutional framework which enhances growth in our country, including our independent Bank of England and Office for Budget Responsibility. We will have a strong fiscal anchor with debt falling as a proportion of GDP over the medium term. That is the Conservative way. But today we face new challenges. And in addressing those challenges, we will act in a fiscally sustainable and responsible way. That is why, shortly, we will publish our medium-term fiscal plan, setting out our approach more fully. It will set out how we plan to get debt falling as a percentage of GDP over the medium term. And I have asked the OBR to publish a full economic and fiscal forecast alongside our medium-term fiscal plan. There is no path to higher sustainable growth without fiscal responsibility. Conservatives have always known this, and we know it still. And it is because we are Conservatives that we remain absolutely committed to being serious custodians of the public purse. This is what defines us and separates us from the Labour Party. But Conference, to grow the economy, we really do need to do things differently. We know that it is our towns and cities which drive much of our economic growth today. Business investment, skills, science and technology, infrastructure, housing, energy supply, strong financial services. These are the key ingredients for higher economic growth and well-funded public services. I had the great privilege of being Business Secretary for nearly 2 years. I visited every corner of this country. I saw the creativity, the drive, the entrepreneurial spirit. We have to celebrate our entrepreneurs, our business people, our job creators, people who are taking risks. But I also saw where government got in the way of progress. My job now is to free that potential. This starts with investment zones. We will empower local areas to do things differently, just as here in Birmingham. We will liberalise planning rules, releasing land and accelerating development. We will cut taxes for businesses in those zones. We will accelerate tax reliefs for new structures and for new buildings. We will provide relief on investments on plant and machinery. We will lower taxes which stop businesses hiring and skilling up their workforce. That is an unprecedented set of incentives for business to invest, to create jobs, to build right across our country. And it will start right now. Conference, we will get Britain moving. But too often regulation holds business and Britain back. Stifling red tape puts up too many barriers for entrepreneurs looking to scale up. There are too many rules for small business owners who want to take on an apprentice. There are too many burdens on our finance sector, stopping it from investing in key projects. And when Britain's innovators, job creators, entrepreneurs, and risk takers are held back, so is Britain. That is why we will review, replace, or repeal retained EU law holding our country back. We will also speed up the delivery of infrastructure and promote house building to create a true home-owning, shareholding democracy. Unapologetically and emphatically, we will get out of the way to get Britain building and on its feet. Over the coming days and weeks, we will forge ahead and break down the barriers that have held our country back for too long. On childcare, agriculture, immigration, planning, energy, broadband, business, financial services. Sensible economic reforms to produce more of the products and services we need to drive down costs, to create jobs, and to generate higher pay and productivity. And when it comes to those who would hold us back, we will act. Pernicious strike action disrupts the lives of British people and slows down our economy. It stops children going to school. It stops parents from going to work. And it stops people from getting the vital care that they need. Action which slows down our economy cannot be the policy of any serious party serious about growth. And a party which is not serious about growth can never be considered fit for office. So we will introduce important reforms to stop strike action from derailing our daily lives. Reform to get Britain moving. Conference, I am unashamedly a pro-business conservative. I know that the interests of business and hard-working families are not in conflict. They are aligned. When businesses thrive, they create more jobs, they raise wages, and they contribute more for our public services. Rather than bashing business, we are backing it. That is why we need to make our tax system simpler, more competitive, and pro-growth. So we will reverse the planned increase in corporation tax, ensuring we have the lowest rate in the G20. This will plough almost £19 billion a year back into the economy. That's £19 billion for businesses to reinvest, to create jobs and raise wages. We will reverse the reforms to IR35 that have added unnecessary complexity and cost for so many businesses. We will maintain the £1 million annual investment allowance, giving 100% tax relief on investments in plant and machinery. For over a decade, the Conservative Party has stood up for working people in this country. Since 2010, we have delivered the lowest unemployment since the 1970s, 1 million new businesses, more than doubling the tax-free personal allowance. We've taken 2 million of the lowest paid out of paying tax altogether. The national living wage, boosting the pay packets of the lowest paid. Fuel duty, frozen for 12 years. The £1,000 uplift in universal credit, making sure work always pays. These are great achievements, conservative achievements. And let us not forget, when this party came into government, we were met with the full force of Labour's economic incompetence. No money left, taxes raised, record unemployment. We reversed that story of national decline. But even after 3 election defeats, they still haven't learnt their lesson. The Labour Party would have you believe that every penny you earn should go straight into the government's coffers. The Labour Party believe that they know how to spend your money better than you do. The Labour Party believe that they can tax their way to growth. We don't believe that. We believe in low tax, high growth, and fiscal discipline. We are conservatives. And that conference is what our growth plan delivers. Last week we saw a Labour Party with the same old ideas, renationalisation, empty slogans, no plan for growth. But we as Conservatives believe in Britain. We love this country. Our patriotism isn't something that we turn on and off and negotiate like the Labour Party. It goes to the core of what it is to be a Conservative. It is an unyielding quality. Yes, we have challenges to face. But our plan will take this country forward. We will get Britain moving. We will deliver lower taxes for you and your family, and we will grow our economy. I know we can achieve that goal. With grit, with drive, and with determination, we can meet the challenges of this new era. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Secretary of State for Digital, Culture, Media and Sport, Michelle Donnellan.
Thank you, Conference. It is an honour to be here as the Secretary of State for Digital, Culture and Media and Sport, along with my team of fantastic ministers. And of course, back here in Birmingham, which this year became the second biggest tech city in the UK outside of London. It is also the city that encapsulates every aspect of what I will deliver. Whether that's promoting British sporting excellence on the world stage by hosting the Commonwealth Games, or helping to fuel the tech industry in the West Midlands, where an extra 52,000 new jobs will exist by 2025. The success is already being seen across the country and will be turbocharged under this government, the boldest Conservative government in a generation. And I will be ensuring that my department is at the heart of this as a true engine of growth in the UK. And while the areas we may cover in DCMS may seem at opposite ends of the policy spectrum, actually my own priorities all boil down to a few very simple areas. Common sense goals, if you like. Because in everything that we do, I want us to create, connect, and also protect. Create more highly paid tech, digital, and creative jobs that will provide genuine opportunities for you and your children. This will be the beating heart of our mission to grow the economy. I will also work to connect communities up and down the country to better deliver broadband, 5G, and phone signal. It is fundamentally wrong that in today's age we still have people living in rural communities that find it difficult to get a phone signal to call their loved ones. And this is going to change. And finally, I will protect our children, our values, and our history. And that is why I'm coming forward with strong, common sense, conservative solutions that will deliver on these problems. And at the heart of everything that I do is making people's lives better by driving up economic growth, and that will be the department's priority. But to create jobs, to connect communities, and to protect our British values, we do have to be unashamedly conservative. As the Prime Minister said from the day one, in fact, we are the party that understands the need to grow the economic pie rather than simply slicing it into thinner pieces. Where we see the Labour Party squabbling over how to divide the wealth, we, the Conservatives, are getting on with the job, creating the wealth. And this includes creating more wealth and prosperity through our tech, through digital, through cyber, through our cultural sectors, through arts, through tourism. But there remains a significant amount of red tape in our way. Red tape that as a newly independent nation, free from the EU bureaucracy, we can tailor to fit our country's needs. And one example of this is GDPR, which we obviously inherited from the EU. And its bureaucratic nature is still limiting the potential of our businesses. So much so that researchers at Oxford University found that businesses' profits were actually capped by 8% because of GDPR. In a survey that my own department did, 50% of businesses told us that the EU mainly one-size-fits-all GDPR system had led to excessive caution amongst their staff when handling data. We even, in fact, believe it or not, had churches write to the department pleading to us for change so that they could just send out a newsletter to their own communities without worrying about breaching data rules. Conference, this is mad. Many of these smaller organisations and businesses only in fact employ a few people. They don't have the resources or the money to navigate the regulatory minefield that is GDPR. And yet, right now, in the main, they're forced to follow this one-size-fits-all approach, the same one-size-fits-all approach that applies to multinational corporations. This is just not right, and it is certainly not conservative. And that is why today, conference, I am announcing that we will be replacing GDPR with our own business and consumer-friendly British data protection system. Our plan will protect consumer privacy and keep their data safe, whilst retaining our data advocacy so that businesses can, of course, trade freely. And I can promise to you here today, conference, that it will be simpler, it will be clearer for businesses to navigate. No longer will our businesses be shackled by lots of unnecessary red tape. At the moment, we all know we have a shortage of electricians and plumbers and other skill sets, yet GDPR ties them in knots with clunky bureaucracy. In its place, we will go further than we have said before, because we will co-design with business a new system of data protection that will look to those other countries who manage to achieve data adequacy, but they don't have GDPR, like Israel, Japan, South Korea, Canada, and New Zealand. Our new data protection plan will focus on growth, on common sense, on helping to prevent losses from cyber attacks and data breaches, while also protecting data privacy. This will allow us to reduce the needless regulation and business stifling elements, while taking the best bits from other countries to create a truly bespoke British system of data protection. But let me be clear, this is not another wave of legislation on business. Business won't have to wrap themselves up in complicated legislation. This is about simplification. In fact, it is the government seizing the opportunity to support our job creators. And I will be involving them right from the very beginning, starting in the design, so that together we can create a tailored, business-friendly system. One that protects the consumer, protects data adequacy, increases the trade, and that also is a good data protection system, but enables us to create and increase productivity and avoids the pitfalls of a one-size-fits-all system. It is truly time that we seize this post-Brexit opportunity, that we unleash the future growth potential of our British business. We can be the bridge across the Atlantic and operate as the world's data hub. But conference, you also know there is much more to DCMS than just data. And as someone who is passionate about grassroots sport, especially having Melksham Town Football Club and Chippenham Town Football Club in my constituency, I've seen firsthand the impact that they can have on local communities. And I could not be more happy to be the Secretary of State in charge of sport at a time when British sporting excellence truly is all around us. Our heroic lionesses, well, they inspired millions of girls and football fans across the summer, kicking off a new era in women's football. The world also watched in awe as the Commonwealth Games took the nation by storm, exhibiting the very best of British talent and culture. And what's more, this Conservative government didn't just deliver the Commonwealth Games on time and on budget. We delivered it on time and under budget. Over 60 million under, in fact. And today, I am delighted to announce that we are going to invest that money to really cement the legacy of the Commonwealth Games back here in the West Midlands, investing in pro-growth legacy projects for the people of West Midlands and working with our driven, our passionate delivery machine for the West Midlands, Conservative Mayor Andy Street. So while the Labour Party tried to choke growth in the West Midlands by backing crippling rail strikes, we're getting on with the job of injecting investment and producing growth, not just here but around the country. Because this is also a government that connects a new household to full fibre broadband every 7 seconds. And rolling out good broadband and 5G has the potential to revolutionise our country's economy, accelerating growth, jobs, and improving the quality of life for millions of people. For some people, it might mean better broadband and 5G will mean that they can access streaming services and have a stable connection in their home. For others, it might mean that they can get access to 5G-connected mobile health scanners, bringing next-generation health centres to their town. Or for farmers, it could enable them to use live sensors to detect in real time about the fertilisation and moisture needed for their crops. The possibilities are endless. And the benefits extend far beyond just being able to load up a web page quickly. And that's why I will soon be coming back to Parliament to announce a package that will make it easier for us to roll out broadband across the country, and that will accelerate major progress. There is also a huge opportunity for the growth agenda with the cultural, arts and creative industries, and also media. And we want to continue this trend by ensuring that we accelerate by investing in the skills that we need. And also I want to take this opportunity to thank the BBC and all of our broadcasters for the excellent coverage and tribute that they gave to Her late Majesty the Queen. Another area of growth is tourism, which is booming. By reintroducing VAT tax for shoppers from overseas, it will boom even more. And we will replace the old paper-based system with a modern digital system that will come into place very soon. Now, the final part of my plan for DCMS is built on the soundly conservative principles of protecting the things that we love, rather than tearing them down. As a former Children and Families Minister, I know firsthand that there is no greater duty than protecting children, especially as they browse online. Our party is founded on the principle of stronger families, and a stronger family means a stronger country. And as a basic building block of a strong family, I would argue it is ensuring the safety of children. Conference, for too long have we enabled social media giants to chip away at the innocence of children by feeding them dangerous content, contrary in fact to their own terms and conditions, which we all know has led to devastating tragedies. Last week there was the inquest to Molly Russell. It further highlighted the horrific failure of social media companies in terms of their ability to put children and young people and their welfare first. I think we owe it to Molly Russell and all of Molly's family to ensure that we do everything in our power to stop this from happening again. Our online safety bill must be the answer, and I will make sure that the bill's key objective really is ensuring that social media companies protect children online. Conference, I can confirm here today that the bill will be returning to Parliament, and my dedicated team of ministers and I are working flat out to ensure that the bill is delivered and that we are strengthening the protections in place for children. But rest assured, Conference, that I'm also making changes to the bill in relation to freedom of speech for adults. I am the minister that brought forward the Higher Education Freedom of Speech Bill, and so I know just how vital it is that we get this right and that we ensure our rights in terms of freedom of speech and freedom of expression really are protected. And there needs to be more accountability, of course, and there needs to be more transparency for users. So I will be bringing forward these measures in the bill to ensure that this is the case. Freedom of speech underpins our very British democracy. We are, in fact, a country with a long history of supporting and exporting free speech. In many ways, Britain is the home of free speech. It is the beating heart on which all of our freedoms rest. So let's remember, protecting children online and protecting the free speech of adults do not need to be at odds with one another. As you can see, fairness, honesty, and common sense are the values that I rely on to take those big decisions. I'm an evidence-based politician, and over the coming months, you will see that I'm certainly not afraid to tackle the big issues and make the big decisions. And one thing is for sure, I will ensure we stick to our conservative principles to make people's lives better and also fairer. Because we are the party that delivers high-paid jobs in tech and digital so that our economy grows. We are the party that connects our country to fast broadband and 5G so that families and business can prosper. And we are the party that protects British culture and institutions with common sense. This bold Conservative government is going to accelerate our delivery and stand true to our principles. So thank you, Conference.
Please welcome Kemi Badenoch, Secretary of State for International Trade.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not Kemi Badenoch, obviously. I'm Liam Halligan. I'm from GB News. I'm also a long-standing columnist in the Sunday Telegraph, and I've been asked by Kemi to host a Q&A session with her so you can get to know her a little bit better. We've only got 20 minutes. I think I can see the clock somewhere. So let's kick off. Kemi, I think the first time you took the stage at the Conservative Party conference was in 2017. You were the warm-up act for the Prime Minister, no less, Theresa May, in Manchester. Certain things happened in that speech, like letters falling off the set and so on, which meant perhaps you didn't get the headlines you deserved. But you'd already made a mark in politics. You came into the House in 2017. You'd given your maiden speech on Brexit. It was a very fast elevation to centre stage of the Conservative Party, but you'd been in politics for quite a long time, hadn't you? Yes. I think you first stood against Tessa Jowell in 2010.
Yes. Sorry, what's the question?
So the question... So I guess the question was, how did it feel after quite a long time to stand up and address conference on that day?
Absolutely terrifying. It's wonderful because I tell people the Conservative Party is my family. And even in that speech I talked about how I married my deputy chairman. But giving speeches is terrifying, which is why I'm doing an in-conversation this evening, because despite the fact that people seem to like it when I say stuff, I worry about the things that can go wrong. And I find having a conversation an easier way of explaining some of the things that are important about conservative philosophy than just talking in a speech.
The Conservative Party have known about you and your talents for a long time, despite the relatively short time you've been in Parliament. And I think the whole country really got to know you during the Conservative leadership contest. When you saw that there was going to be a leadership contest, how long did it take you, Kemi, to decide to stand?
About 24 hours. And it's very hard to describe the mindset that I was in at the time. I had resigned after agonizing over resigning. I didn't want to resign, and I resigned with my friends, who were both sort of friends personally as well as philosophically. And there were so many things which I felt I had not been able to say because I'd been on payroll for a very long time. I'd been a minister, party vice chairman, and I thought, now I'm a backbencher. Now I can say exactly what I think, but what will make people listen, and what is it that I think our party needs to do? And quite a few people also encouraged me to stand, so it wasn't just a fit of megalomania. I did have a lot of people encouraging me. But it was difficult because when you're standing to be leader of a party, and in this case, to be prime minister of a country, it's a very serious decision. There's going to be a huge impact on your family. And you can't also help feeling overwhelmed by imposter syndrome. So on the one hand, someone who is fairly ideological like me, I know what I think, and things have to be done in a certain way. This absolutely has to be done. And then you think, oh my God, being prime minister of a country, imposter syndrome sort of overwhelms you. So you're going through quite a lot of turmoil of emotions. But I'm really glad I stood in the contest. I think that I said a lot of the things that the party wanted to hear, but and I don't think I would have been a Secretary of State without it. It was nice to be able to show Liz, now the Prime Minister, that I could do more than what I had been doing, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity that she's given me.
And I have to say, to quote Bruce Forsyth, ladies and gentlemen, didn't she do well? Tell us a little bit about your early life. You were born in the UK, but then you very quickly went back to your family in Nigeria. It wasn't just a passing thing. You spent your childhood in Nigeria. You had a properly African childhood. How did that impact your political philosophy, your ideology? How did that impact your drive to get to the top of British politics?
Significantly. Almost everything that I think is formed from having grown up in a developing country. And I mean, my political philosophy is probably Roger Scruton plus Thomas Sowell, for those of you who know who those authors are. I'm a child of both of those two men. That's what I think about the world. And growing up in Nigeria meant that I had experiences that can't be taken away by poor arguments. So I was born into a relatively wealthy family, but we lost all our money. So people are often confused when I talk about growing up in poverty, but I experienced both, which means I'm terrified of inflation, because inflation wiped away everything that my...
And you understand financial insecurity.
Exactly.
In a way a lot of people in our political class and our media class don't.
Precisely. So it's informed a lot of my economic views, my views on authoritarianism. I grew up under a military government, so loving freedom and being free to be able to do things and think for yourself is really, really important. I mean, when I was at school, there was one particular military government where if teachers were late, they got flogged on the streets before they got to the school, not just the students. It was such a contrast to moving to a place where freedom is really important, but also even things like free trade and learning that you can't buck the market, the iron laws of supply and demand. You would get, export controls and capital controls, and all of a sudden the currency would go haywire. So a lot of very strong views on economics, but also even, and I know that it's been covered a bit, some of the comments I've made in earlier panels about immigration. My views on immigration were formed by my father, who was a GP, not being able to hire medical staff because all of them had come here or gone to the US. And we need to be very careful about what we're doing to other countries in the way that we think about migration. Migration is... I don't think we should talk about immigration as if people are economic units. They are more than that. And when people come to a country, there is a contract that's being made about joining an existing society, and we need to think about it more broadly rather than people come here to work and make us wealthier or look after our elderly. There's something more that's going on, and I'm hoping that we can have a much better conversation about immigration than the one we've been having in this country. And I speak as a first-generation immigrant, so I know that there are a lot of things that's probably easier for me to say than others, and I think that I should use my voice to have a civilized conversation about what kind of country we want to be.
And just briefly, I've been to Nigeria several times, West Africa in general. Nigeria is an incredibly dynamic, entrepreneurial place. It's full of very, very, very talented people, but it's also a place which, with all respect, and I say this with a lot of respect for Nigeria and West Africa in general, it needs leadership. And I guess that's another lesson that you learned from living in Nigeria.
Yes, good leadership, a respect for institutions, a respect for the rule of law, all of the things that make the United Kingdom great. And we know that our country is great because every day we see, thousands of people trying to get here. And it's one of the reasons why I'm so frustrated with the narrative about how terrible the UK is and how everything we do is wrong. And it's quite striking to hear people talk about their own country in this way. Many people who you would consider part of the establishment, thank you, and elites talking down their country because it has an impact. It even has an impact on things like my new role in trade. If you are telling the rest of the world that your country is terrible and racist, what do you think happens when your trade secretary goes to a developing country to ask for things? It means that they suddenly will view you with suspicion. There's so many knock-on effects of this type of talk that people don't realize. It is very indulgent, and it frustrates me because when I try and talk about these things, I end up being characterized as a culture warrior. These things are not trivial. They are very, very serious, and we need to get a little bit more serious about them. Our economic problems and our cultural problems, as we think, they are quite interlinked, and separating the two isn't necessarily helpful in terms of finding a way forward.
Now, as I've got to know you over recent years, I've come to understand that you really are a politician with a hinterland. You're a trained engineer. You really know your way around coding and computers and so on. You work very closely in terms of your politics with Hamish Badenoch, who himself stood as a Conservative councillor, was a Conservative councillor in Merton in South London. You've got 3 lovely young children. Politics is really, really important to you and indeed to Hamish, but it's not everything, is it? You do have a life outside of politics.
Not anymore.
I
It's just my family and work, really. Yeah.
But you did do things before you came into Parliament. How important is that you had a career in your own right? You weren't just you didn't just go from a PPE course to become a SPAD and then into politics.
No, I actually think a lot of the things I did just before and during university helped shape me. I mean, anyone who watched the leadership hustings would have heard me talk about McDonald's 1,000 times. Yeah, that was my first job, and it had a profound
Were you any good?
impact. No, actually, I wasn't, because I never got the stars.
Oh, you didn't get the stars?
No, so it was not my. It was not where my core skill set lay.
Was it the fries station you didn't perform, or the shakes?
I was very bad in the kitchen, but I was okay with the money.
Hamish is a great cook.
Yeah, he is. And so jobs like that, having grown up, as I said, in a family that was wealthy and didn't have to do things like that, that really shaped me. And I had to do lots of temp jobs. I had an apprenticeship before I went to university. So all of those things influenced me. And then after my degree, going into software consulting and working in banks, it just sort of gave me a little bit of a broader sort of job history before politics.
But you made your way into politics, onto the candidates list. Many people here and Conservatives across the country will be very grateful for that. I think somebody called Francis Maud played a role.
Yes, so Francis Maud, actually, it was my trade minister. I don't know if I thought you were going to ask me questions about trade, Liam.
We're coming to it.
Okay, fine. So actually, I met a man at a party, a Christmas party for the Young Conservatives, whose name's Conor Burns, and he said, "I think you're amazing, you should meet the party chairman," who was Francis Maud. And Francis Maud said, "Oh, you should really think about becoming an MP." And it's really funny because Conor Burns is, of course, now my junior minister in Department for International Trade.
We won't make that mistake again.
But it's fantastic having him working with me, because I actually wouldn't be here if we hadn't had that conversation. I went into that room, I didn't know anybody. And it's one of the examples of how our party is so welcoming to so many people. And just having somebody say, "Hello, who are you?" and have a conversation. And then 17 years later, here I am.
You do now have a big, hefty role in Cabinet, the trade portfolio. I think you were in the States last week,
Yes.
trying to drum up business for the UK, banging the drum, as you say. Tell us about what you want to try and achieve during your time as Trade Secretary, Kevin.
So the Prime Minister has given me a mandate. You all know that we have a growth plan, and the Department for International Trade is integral to that plan, and I'm going to do everything to help her deliver on her agenda. I fully support the Prime Minister 100%. I think that we do. I do. I think. I think we do need to make sure that the Conservative message around the economy is one that doesn't get lost in a lot of the media storms that we see. So yes, trade is going to be very important. I am trying to shift the Overton window of trade as we see it beyond trade deals. So everyone thinks the Department of International Trade does trade deals. So trade deals are great, but they're not the only thing. Trade deals are like the motorway. It's fantastic, you get them built, but if the cars aren't going back and forth, then you might as well not have built them. Yeah. And the going back and forth is exports and investment. You know, we have a new investment minister, Dominic Johnson, who I'm delighted to hear has joined the team with James Duddridge and Conor Burns. And I think we're going to be a fantastic team. But we're going to be working not just on signing deals, but making sure that people are actually using them, making sure that our businesses are able to get their goods out there, that people want to invest in the UK. And what I learned in the US is that people really love our country. They think that this is a safe place for them to invest their money. The US is the single biggest investor in the UK without a trade deal, 459 billion.
And 17% of our trade.
Absolutely. 1.5 million Brits work in, go to an American company every day. So trade deals, yes, they are essential, but actually making sure that we stop people from creating new regulations outside the trade deal that will harm our businesses. It requires quite a lot of day-to-day dialogue. It's not exciting. A lot of it's very technical, dealing with the WTO, but it makes a difference to everyday people. It helps businesses grow, and it means that we continue to develop our reputation in the world. And so that's what I'm going to be doing as Trade Secretary.
Even before Brexit, of course, the majority of our trade was outside of the EU. We were unique in the EU in that sense, which is one reason why the customs union, in the eyes of many, I know you, wasn't suitable for the UK. But of course, Europe remains, doesn't it, a major trading partner. So I guess you'll be spending quite a lot of your time talking to EU members as well.
Yes, that's right. And just because we're not within the single market doesn't mean that there aren't other things that we can do. So for instance, I know that we have an investment partnership that we're working with Norway on, for example. There are loads of individual partnerships that we can have. And even though the US is not doing any trade deals at the moment, we are able to have a memorandum of understanding with states. So we can do mini trade deals with the 50 states of the US. And one of the things that I'm more worried about is that the entire world is becoming more protectionist. Whether it's the US focusing on Buy America or other countries subsidizing their markets, you look at what China is doing. We need a level playing field in order to have good free trade. And trade is not just, the primary purpose of trade in my view is as a tool for prosperity, but it's not just for prosperity. It's also a tool for security. When you look at food security or even energy security, our trade policy is going to have an impact on how we live our lives far into the future. What are the critical minerals that we need to get to ensure that we can build electric vehicles, for example? Are we going to get locked out of those regions because China and Russia got there first? We mustn't allow anything like that to happen, and it's going to require a very front-footed trade team and a trade policy from the UK that is global and outward looking, but making sure that we still stay in a close relationship with our existing allies.
Now, you're member for Saffron Walden, of course, beautiful North Essex market town, distinguished...
Liam is a constituent, which is why, that's why I asked him to do this.
Former members for Saffron Walden, of course, have included Deputy Common Speaker Alan Hazelhurst, and indeed nobody less than R.A. Butler,
That's right.
whose grave is next to the beautiful Saffron Walden St Mary's Church. Just give us a little bit of your sense of how important education has been to you in getting you where you are now, and your passion for education.
It's been absolutely vital. It's a cliche to say so. I would not be here without the very good education which I had supported, of course, by my parents and their philosophy that it was the most important thing. And when you see just how many people around the world struggle to get a good education, you don't take it for granted here, but it's also the reason why I'm of the view that we need to have rigorous standards across the board in all our schools, and also give teachers the tools that they need to make sure that we can educate our children so they're the brightest and the best.
Last couple of questions, Kemi. The penultimate question is this. Identity politics, it is something that you speak out on quite often, though I know very strongly you don't want to be identified with that. Your talents and interests go far, far broader. But how have we got to this point? How have we got to the point where there's contention over definitions of what a woman is and so on?
I think a lot of things have happened at the same time, but what I would say is that many of the people, not all of them, but many of the people who have the views that are at odds with the way we Conservatives see the world, is that they are trying to fill a void. And I remember being at an event where I had spoken and I met these very young ladies who people would call woke. It's not a word that I actually use. I think it trivializes what is going on. So if you see me being quoted as using the word woke, know that I probably didn't.
Fake news.
Yeah, except for now when I just used it. But we had a long conversation, and after the argument, I could tell that they weren't really solid in what they were thinking. And I asked them, well, why do you think this? And one of them said, because I want to feel like I'm a part of something important. And we mustn't forget that at the heart of this is a lot of people are trying to find their way around the world, whether it's replacing religion or family or a sense of belonging. And that's something which, as Conservatives, we completely understand. The problem is that on top of this, there is an activist class of people, and we know who they are. We see them outside chanting at protests, and they're at every protest with the Socialist Worker Party banner, and they exploit actually the issues that a lot of people have to attack what I would call our conservative and liberal values. It's not only Conservatives who are under attack. In fact, if you look at many of the issues the gender critical women have faced, it's mainly people on the left. So I think that there's something missing. But the reason why it's got to this stage is because we have lost the art of political argument ourselves. So I don't think that as Conservatives we should point fingers all the time. Sometimes we need to look inwards and look at what we are doing wrong. And one of those things is actually not making the argument enough, sometimes conceding where we shouldn't concede, or worried that people might think that we're bigots or one phobe or the other, and not say the right thing. It's absolutely important to be true to our convictions and make the argument in as civilized a manner as possible, and also actually force people to say what they mean. Thank you. We need to be more precise in our language as well. A lot of the difficult. More courageous, more precise. Get people to say what they mean. Quite often we're having two totally different conversations. Leave Twitter. It's just a bad place. I call it the devil's message board, but it feeds a lot of this. And also, and I do consider myself on the liberal part of the Conservative wing, but I think sometimes people don't understand our views of liberalism and liberty, and they think that it's the freedom to do bad things. And we must make sure that when we're talking about freedom, it's not the freedom to do bad things, it's the freedom to live your life as you choose while respecting the dignity of others, and always being cognizant of those who have a different point of view. And I think if we do that, then we'll get to a better place.
Final question, Secretary of State, because we are almost out of time. I know from conversations with you and indeed with the Prime Minister and Chancellor over many years that you share with those two a lot of the same values about the economy, about how we get growth going, the importance of growing the cake rather than arguing always about an existing cake. I think it's fair to say recent days have shown the difficulties of getting that message across sometimes. So how can you, the whole cabinet, the whole party, when activists go out knocking on doors and so on, how can they bring the country with them when in terms of putting forward this growth plan and making it stick?
Well, first of all, as a party, we need to get behind the Prime Minister, because if we don't do that, then none of that we need unity, and we need to be able to have dissent in a grown-up fashion. I think that whenever people have problems with policy, I think there's a way of communicating it and not necessarily rushing to the first TV studio to let everybody know how angry you are. And some of the people who've done this are my friends, but it's not helpful for the whole party, so the party needs to come together. But we also need to remember who our real opponents are, and that's the Labour Party. And we are not here to fight ourselves. So if we make sure that we make our arguments very clearly, and the Prime Minister did say yesterday that we didn't lay the groundwork for it. So we need to communicate better, and that's something that I take as a personal responsibility, explaining what our party's policies are and doing so in a way that resonates with the general public. But the fact is that we have not been growing in this country. We have a high GDP, but we have a low GDP per capita. America's is 17% more than ours, for example. So we do need to do something about growth. And one of the things that worries me is that there's so many people out there who are willing us to fail that we can end up just losing the argument and losing the country if we aren't sort of more courageous about explaining why what we're doing is right. It's also, yes, explanation is key, but it's also, it is morally right to go for growth, because if people don't have any growth, they won't have any homes, they won't become capitalists, they won't become homeowners. We need to be able to create something for our future, and that's why growth is important. It is not an end in itself, it's a means to a better quality of life for everybody, and that's what we're fighting for.
Well, Kemi Badenoch, MP for Saffron Walden. Didn't I mention Saffron Walden? Secretary of State for Trade. I've really enjoyed talking to you today. Thanks to you for asking me. Thanks to GB News for giving me time off in a very busy day. Ladies and gentlemen, Kemi Badenoch.
Please welcome Secretary of State for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, Ronald Jaya Wadner.
I am delighted to be standing before you today as your Secretary of State for the Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, and it is a great privilege to serve you in this role because I was raised in a rural county, the county that my family and I still live in, the fine county of Hampshire. Some of you are in the audience, the northeast of which I represent today. It was when I was at Hook Infant School that I learnt how soap used to be made, and I began to speak up against whaling, which loopholes sadly still allow today. It was at Hook Junior School that I championed recycling before separate curbside collections existed and everything was going to landfill. Like our Prime Minister, I'm proud to say that I was an environmentalist before it was fashionable. Having grown up in North East Hampshire, I understand the issues faced by those in rural communities too. I will be a champion for all who live in the countryside, the length and breadth of our nation, and I look forward to visiting farms, businesses and charities across the country, including in Shropshire, PDM Produce, where I was yesterday, Mondelez in Bourneville, who I will be visiting on Wednesday, and thank you to everyone who has given me such a warm welcome already, here in Birmingham, across the West Midlands too, even if the same can't be said of Twitter. There is much to do, and I have been put here by the Prime Minister to deliver. At DEFRA, we're all about EFG, the environment, food and growth. And I am delighted to have a great team who are getting on with the job. Trudy Harrison as your Minister for the Environment, Mark Spencer as your Minister for Food, Scott Mann as your Minister for Growth, all ably supported by Lord Benyon as Minister for International Nature and Biosecurity, and Lord Harlech, Darren Henry, Laura Farris and Anthony Higginbotham in the Whip's offices and as my parliamentary private secretaries. And as we all get on with the job, top of the list, key to unlocking everything that we want, is growing our economy. Though our opponents would like to pretend otherwise, a strong, healthy environment and a strong, healthy economy are not incompatible. In fact, they are perfect partners. A strong economy and a strong environment is how we deliver in a conservative way. And that's why I can assure you today, my friends, that my department should no longer be seen as one that follows the EU, imposes rules and impedes innovation. Instead of being a regulatory department, we are now an economic growth department. Food and drink is our largest manufacturing sector. It's bigger than automotive and aerospace put together, with a presence in every constituency across our great country. The opportunity for growth is enormous, and it will bring jobs, skills and prosperity to people across the nation. Now more than ever, we know the importance of food security. It is crucial for our national resilience, and we must boost it further still. British food and farming are the best in the world. Premium products that should not just be enjoyed at home, rather they should be championed around the world. And here at home, we should be able to buy British with confidence and with pride. But to do that, we need to tighten up our labelling. We have some of the highest animal welfare standards in the world. Shoppers vote with their feet and choose to buy British for just that reason. And yet, did you know that Danish pork, processed in Britain, can be sold as British? We don't have to bow the knee to every bureaucratic Bonaparte in Brussels anymore. Haven't we taken back control? That is why we are working with supermarkets and producers to improve the data that they collect on where our food comes from. And we will launch new British labelling so that the people of our great nation can have confidence that anything labelled as British is British. And this is an extra Brexit bonus too. Instead of keeping the world's best food and drink a secret, we will sell more of it around the globe with the Union flag symbolising, once again, the quality that people around the world want to buy. Whilst at the Department for International Trade, the Prime Minister and I were determined to open new markets, and we succeeded. British beef is back in America. We are selling chicken to Mongolia. We are shipping Scottish salmon to Saudi Arabia. And our friends in Canada are enjoying Scotch whisky too. But this is just the beginning. And like the Prime Minister when she was the Environment Secretary, in a fortnight, I will be in Paris at the world's largest food fair, bigging up British products. I will be working very closely with my friends at Trade to make sure we are capitalising on every export opportunity for our premium produce around the world, at premium prices that our farmers, fishermen and food producers deserve. We have huge opportunities, from lamb to the Gulf, dairy to the Far East, the list could go on. But the opportunity isn't just demand-led. Supply-side reforms are crucial. Now that we have left the EU, I'm delighted to tell you that we are going to free our farmers, and we are listening to all sides for new ideas to get Britain growing, such as the review undertaken by Baroness Rock to back our tenant farmers. And unlike the Labour Party, we trust our farmers, so we will be cutting red tape that has held our farms back for far too long. We announced in our growth plan that we would review farming regulations, but contrary to what you might have read in some corners of the media, we remain committed to our environmental schemes that support our farmers as they look after our countryside. But the truth is that some rules in the past didn't do what they set out to. The 3-crop rule and the greening requirements are already gone, and we will be announcing more in the coming weeks. I bulldozed 400 trade barriers in my time at Trade, and I will continue to get things done. We must look to the future too. We will use our new grant schemes to support farmers and food producers to invest in the technology that will boost their productivity and profitability. The technological advancements being made in the agricultural and horticultural sectors are astounding, producing more food whilst using fewer resources, including water. And using less water is vital. It has been a long, hot summer, with crop failure being a very real worry. We need a little rain, and when the rain comes, we need our flood defences to be strong to protect life and property. But we also need our watercourses and beaches to be safe and sewage-free. I believe in private enterprise. We all do. It's business that creates jobs, secures our prosperity, and pays for our public services. Private enterprise is intrinsic to our Conservative DNA. And yet, we all know that government must step in if there is market failure. Our water companies have a lot to answer for. Too much water is wasted through leaks each year when we should be conserving it. And in 2022, we still find sewage in our rivers and on our beaches. That is not on. On my first day in office, I met water company bosses to give them their report card. They caused 62 serious pollution incidents in 2021. I'll be polite, could do better. And I asked them to write to me with their plans to accelerate investment in infrastructure. They did, and now they must deliver. Privatisation has put in £170 billion of investment into our water infrastructure already, and the private sector will now put in another £56 billion more. If they don't deliver, there will be consequences. I can confirm to you today that I will be taking forward plans to lift the Environment Agency's maximum civil fine for each individual breach of the rules from up to just £250,000 to up to £250 million. This doesn't only affect families going to our beautiful British lakes, rivers and beaches in the summer, or surfers braving the cold winter swells. It has repercussions for our environment at a time when our biodiversity is seriously under threat. Biodiversity is declining faster than at any time in human history. We rely on nature to provide us with food, water and clean air, and biodiversity is crucial to enabling nature to be productive and resilient. More than a half of global GDP is estimated to be dependent on biodiversity and nature. That's over £40 trillion. When I was first elected, I founded the all-party parliamentary group on endangered species. I can tell you, I believe in halting the decline. Except, I should say, my friends, for the decline of the lesser, but still too often spotted, the so-called Liberal Democrat. That's a species I'd be happy to see remain on the endangered list, because I stand shoulder to shoulder with you, my friends. Like you, I have fought the Lib Dems and the Socialists in communities across the country as an association officer, as a councillor, and as a Member of Parliament. And in this brief, at DEFRA, I will work night and day to preserve our green and pleasant land. Our rural landscapes, the clouded hills, the mountains green, are precious to us all, and we have a duty to our children and our children's children to protect them. I will honour that duty, and I will not let leftists who seek to divide us undermine that collective responsibility that we all share to protect the environment, because it is this Conservative government that has put in place world-leading targets to halt the decline in nature by 2030, with particular thanks to the hard work of my immediate predecessors, George Eustace and Theresa Villiers. This is a challenge, and one that requires action by many to be achieved. But achieve it we must, for it is critical to the growth that we want to see, the conservative environmentalism that we all believe in. We are going for growth, where a healthy, strong environment is part of a healthy, strong economy. There is a huge task. There is much to do, and we are determined to deliver. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Chloe Smith, Secretary of State for Work and Pensions, and Eleanor Howie.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you this afternoon and to have this opportunity to speak with you. My name is Eleanor Howie. I'm the CEO of a company called Valiant Lingerie, in which capacity I have the opportunity to work really closely with people who've been infected by issues like a diagnosis of breast cancer, for example, and in the future, moving forward, with people who have other functional requirements. And it's in that capacity that I've had the pleasure of meeting the next speaker, who I'm going to have a chat with today, Chloe Smith. So without further ado, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce you to your Secretary of State for Work and Pensions. Chloe, I want to take this opportunity to say huge congratulations to you on your new role.
Eleanor, thank you. Thank you, Conference, I'm really excited to be with you as a brand new Cabinet member and to talk about our absolutely critical job of getting people into work. In fact, you can see one of our conference logos up there to the side of the stage. This is how central the work of my department is to our mission of going for growth. So I'm Chloe Smith, as you introduced me. I'm the Member of Parliament for Norwich North, and I'm very proud to be one of the longest serving female Conservatives in Parliament, and I'm totally thrilled to now be the Secretary of State for Work and Pensions. Before we get into our subject matter today, I'd like to thank the activists and the members who are with us here in the hall and maybe following from home as well. I, for one, have beaten Labour 5 times in a marginal seat, but I know that can't be done without you. So thank you to all of our members and activists and voters and supporters. And the same is true up and down our country. Eleanor, I'd also really like to thank you for joining us today. This is your first experience of a party conference, and you are really welcome with us because you're a very inspiring person in what you've done with your business. I find that venture you've taken really inspirational, both as an entrepreneur, of course, but also in terms of what you do. And we share that experience of the impact of breast cancer, and as it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, let's say to people who may be following us today that it is an opportunity to check for signs that might be there and to then go and get that seen to at the first opportunity. I think you also show how women can carry on with confidence from what may then follow, and I want to use my role as the Secretary of State for the Department for Work and Pensions to also help people to return to confidence and to return to work when that's right for them. Maybe they'll even consider following your steps into setting up their own small business.
Thank you, Chloe. Thank you for those kind words. And we have spoken about our shared interest in empowering women to feel confident. So it's great to hear. One of the things I'd like to hear from you about is what role you see the DWP playing in tackling the challenges that face our labour markets at the moment.
I think these challenges are absolutely central, Eleanor, to where we are as a country, and the DWP has a critical role to play in this. I'd like to thank my team at the DWP, and many are here in the audience. My ministers, Victoria Prentice, Alex Burghardt, Debbie Stedman-Scott, Claire Coutinho, our fantastic PPSs, David Johnson and Jerome Mayhew, and our whips, Joe Churchill and Byron Davis. Now, our focus, our mission, will be to help people to start and stay and succeed in work. And by doing that, we drive the economy. We need to help businesses fill their vacancies. Now, there may well be people in the audience here today, especially as it's business day at Party Conference, who have had direct experience of this. You may be sitting here having run your own company and thought, I need talent, I need to be able to recruit and to retain. And whilst unemployment is at its lowest rate for 50 years, which we should celebrate, vacancies are nonetheless too high. And so that limits growth, that leaves potential unfulfilled. My department will be helping to rise to that challenge. We want to help claimants into work, and we want to support those who are known as economically inactive. Now that means as many as 9 million people in our country who have not recently been looking for work. We need, as Conservatives, to focus on what people can do, not what they can't, and we will be doing that as a department. Now, we're already making changes to help people to find more hours and to earn more. That's critically important at a time when people are very anxious about the cost of living. And of course, it's also true that part of our department's mission is to help more people into work, which in turn means that with a sustainable tax base, we are able also to make sure our public services are on a firm footing for the future.
Great, thank you. We've also spoken in the past about our shared interest in business and the role of business. So perhaps you can tell me a bit about your view on that. What is the role of businesses?
Of course, also absolutely instrumental in this, because of course it's businesses' own vacancies, and we want to be able to play that role to help British business to thrive. Now, how do we do that? We are supporting businesses, of course, with our plan for growth, and you've heard the Chancellor and others, and I think you have the treat of the Business Secretary coming shortly this afternoon as well. And that includes the supply side reforms and the many projects we'll be working on up and down the country to get things moving. We're also supporting businesses with their energy costs, just as we are supporting households. But we know in turn, of course, that businesses want to be able to take people on, and businesses know that that means they will have to skill people up, they will have to invest in training. I would also point out the virtuous circle between health and work, and this is something my department will be absolutely focused on doing, because work is very good for one's health, and health is critical at work, and businesses know this, I think, for their employees. So to have people start and stay and succeed in good work, British businesses will be thriving as well.
Thank you. I think that leads really nicely on to something that's close to my heart and I know is an interest of yours, and that is what we can do to ensure that people who have disabilities or are facing health conditions to support them in playing an active role in the workforce.
You're absolutely right about this, Eleanor, and it really is a passion that we both share, and I'm absolutely sure shared also by the audience here today, and indeed also I know something that a lot of businesses are beginning to focus on, and in many cases extremely successfully. Let's not forget, of course, that actually we've seen a great milestone passed earlier this year where we surpassed a manifesto commitment. We had hoped we might see 1 million more disabled people go into jobs over 10 years. In fact, that target got smashed in just 5 years. So this shows a number of factors at work, but also is something to be very, very proud of. Now, over the past 3 years, looking a little more widely, we do see rising inactivity, driven by increasing numbers of people leaving the workforce due to health problems, and also some different choices being taken by the over 50s. We, of course, want to retain that talent. And I believe there is much more we can do to help people get the chances that they deserve, because of course as Conservatives that is what we believe in. Everyone needs the chance of a good job. When I was the Minister for Disabled People, I saw as an example how deaf people were too often left out, too often excluded in work or in education or in wider society, and that's why I was so proud to help lead the changes represented by the British Sign Language Act. And can I also thank our interpreters who are with us all through the conference. Now, there's much more to do. There is much more to do, and that's why we'll be shortly bringing forward our Health and Disability White Paper, in which we'll be looking at how we can make sure that wider support is there, and that we look to transform our disability benefits to encourage people to be able to take up the opportunities that are right for them. As Conservatives, we believe nobody should be left behind or written off, and that's why disability employment is so high up my agenda.
Thank you. I'm really interested in what you're saying about retaining talent as well. What are you doing to support pensioners and older workers so that we're making sure that we don't lose that leadership expertise and those years of accumulated knowledge from older people?
You make a really great point, and I suspect there's a great deal of that knowledge and experience here in this room and listening into this conversation, because this is absolutely critical. As we are living longer, as we are enjoying fuller lives, I hope, then this becomes an absolutely central point, and it's something so important to businesses as well, because, for the reasons we've discussed, businesses are seeking to fill their vacancies. They want, of course, to bring on talent throughout every stage of the workforce, but that absolutely means making sure that older workers are respected and valued. So in my department, we are stepping up the support that we're offering to job seekers over the age of 50. We're investing indeed an extra £22 million to help tackle joblessness in that age group. Also, we are mindful of the wider support that's needed, and so we have confirmed that pensions will again be supported by the triple lock. And I can say today that as part of continuing what we've done with our broader cost of living payments to help the pensioners, to help the disabled people, to help those on the lowest incomes, we are making the next payment in the month of November, and I know that will be welcome news to many. We do understand that these are very anxious times for people. We know that people are struggling with some of the costs that are rising, and that's why protecting the most vulnerable is a vital priority for me and to this government.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chloe. It's been really great hearing about everything that you're doing and about your ambitions for the future. I know that there are many things that you're really passionate about, and you're bringing that passion to your new role and to the challenges that lie ahead. So thank you so much for talking to me about it today.
And Ellie, thank you for coming to join us. I really am excited. It's a huge job we've got to do. There's no doubt about that. But if we are going for growth, if we are helping people into more jobs and to earn more and to find opportunity and to find prosperity, then this is where we make that difference. As Conservatives, we believe that everybody should have that chance at a really great job. And I know that the businesses who are here today and who are part of the fabric of our nation up and down the land, that is where we can really help. And that is what going for growth really means. It's an opportunity to help millions of people. It's an opportunity to look at inspiring role models, perhaps like yourself, Ellie, but it's an opportunity also to make that difference in every household in the country. That is my mission, and conference, thank you for being part of it as well. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Secretary of State for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy, Jacob Rees-Mogg.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you, and congratulations for coming to the conference in spite of the best efforts of Mr. Mick Lynch, who seemed to wish to get in the way. But thank you for being here, because you are the beating heart of the Conservative Party. You're the stalwarts who do all the work for us and make sure people like me get elected. So I thank you for all you do for conservatism and supporting us so much. That you make it work. You make sure we have Conservative governments, and your getting here was proof of that. And some of you may think that I should be going round the trains, putting out little calling cards saying how much I look forward to seeing people back at work soon. Because actually, we have a tireless quest for productivity in this country, and we need to make sure that everybody is working efficiently, and we want them obviously to be working in their proper places of work. But also I want to thank you for giving me almost as warm a welcome as I got outside the hall. But I think that's rather marvellous. I happen to think that having a democracy where you can actually walk through the streets and people can exercise their right to peaceful protest shows the strength of our society. And if people really want to call me Tory scum, I don't mind. And it has to be said, walking through the beautiful streets of Birmingham, turned blue once again, or turning blue once again, thanks to the great efforts of Andy Street, is a great privilege. And it's lovely to be here, and to be here with this fantastic audience, and to be speaking to you as Business Secretary. And I'm going to reintroduce a great tradition that Secretaries of State used to have when they came into the conference, of introducing my brilliant ministerial team. So my fellow Cabinet Minister, Graham Stewart, is here as Minister for Climate. Jackie Doyle-Price is here as Minister for Industry. Nusrat Ghani, Minister for Science and Investment Security. Dean Russell, Minister for Enterprise and Markets. And Lord Callanan, who I can't actually see here, but is nonetheless a very great man, is the Minister for Business, Energy and Corporate Responsibility. I am so lucky to be supported by what I think is the A team of ministers, and you can tell that to all the other departments who only have B teams, so let's be clear that I have the A team supporting me. But it's also quite fun to be speaking for the first time in all the years I've been a Member of Parliament from the main stage. I did once in the old days when I was the candidate in Wrekin get up to the main stage, but that was only for about 3 minutes, and I've got a bit longer now. But it makes a change. I used to do the rounds of the fringes, when sometimes I wasn't entirely in line with what the government was then doing. So it's nice to be on the main stage and leaving the fringes to certain other right honourable friends of mine who seem to be having a jolly time. But instead, I'm here in full support and honoured to serve a first-class Prime Minister. And the Prime Minister, since she took office, has completed about a year's government business in a fortnight. And I'm glad to say, I think the Prime Minister, and I say this as Minister for Energy, is a genuine dynamo and is producing electric fields that are making sure that things get done, and she knows how urgent the challenges we face are. And the challenges are particularly in energy. First of all, affordability this winter. Second, securing energy supplies. And third, what I would like to call intelligent net zero. And how are we tackling those challenges? Well, rapidly is the answer. As the opposition sniped and catcalled and did what it usually does, we got on with it. We worked properly, night and day, and actually the civil servants in Bays worked incredibly long hours to create the energy price guarantee for households and the energy bill relief scheme for businesses. We have ensured that the British people, families and businesses, will get help now from the 1st of October with energy price support that took effect on Saturday, regardless of where they live in the United Kingdom and however they get their energy. His Majesty's government has acted with speed and foresight to deliver this protection for households throughout the entire kingdom. And the same is true for... Thank you, somebody agrees with me, that's so nice. You've all been here a very long time, so the fact that one person is paying attention is a great relief. I'm very much obliged. So the same is true for businesses. We have averted a genuine economic disaster by protecting businesses, charities and public services, including schools and hospitals, particularly care homes, from catastrophic rises in their energy costs. We did this, we had to do this, because of Putin's monstrous invasion of Ukraine. It seems that his ambition is to make Ivan the Terrible look like Padre Pio. And his wicked acts are what forced up the price of gas to an extent that would have ruined almost every business and left virtually every family unable to afford their energy. I actually said to a journalist from The Sun that the only person who could have afforded an energy bill this winter would have been the proprietor of The Sun. Everyone else would have been in penury. And that's why, ladies and gentlemen, we have done what we have done, not some blunt instrument that our socialist counterparts might have used, but a well-designed, effective way of getting support to all, and a support that will decline as the energy price normalises. Now, you are proper conservatives, aren't you? You are the bluest of the blue. And there may be some of you who think it's not conservative to intervene in this way. But I would say that there was no question that we had to come to the British people's aid